The sun was setting over the vast expanse of the western plains, casting long shadows across the dusty trail. A group of 4 weary travelers rode slowly toward the river that marked the boundary between their troubles and what they hoped would be salvation on the other side. The air carried a heaviness, not just from the heat of the day, but also from the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. As they approached the riverbank, the lead rider, a tall man with a weathered face and sharp eyes, pulled his horse to a halt. His name was Silas, and he had seen more than his fair share of hardship in this unforgiving land. Behind him rode 3 others: Clara, a young woman whose hands were calloused from hard work; Ezekiel, an older man who spoke little but carried himself with quiet authority; and Jonas, a restless youth barely out of boyhood. Silas studied the water before him, its surface shimmering under the fading light like molten silver. It seemed calm enough, though stories whispered around campfires told of treacherous currents lurking beneath such deceptive appearances. He turned slightly to address his companions. "This is it," he said gruffly. "We cross here, or we stay stuck in this godforsaken place." Clara adjusted her grip on the reins, her knuckles white against the leather. She glanced at the river nervously. What if it's too deep? What if something happens? Ezekiel leaned forward in the saddle, his voice steady despite the tension crackling through the group. "We don't have much choice, child. Every mile we delay means another night out here, exposed to whatever dangers these wilds hold." Jonas muttered something under his breath, fidgeting with his hat. His horse shifted uneasily beside him, as though sensing its rider's anxiety. But then came the unexpected twist. Their lead horse, Silas's trusted steed named Thunder, refused to move any closer to the water. No amount of urging, tugging, or coaxing could persuade the animal to take even a single step toward the river. Thunder pawed at the ground, snorting loudly, his ears flicking back and forth as if some unseen force repelled him. "Damn it!" Silas cursed, frustration etched into every line of his face. He dismounted, walking around Thunder to inspect the area. "Why won't you go?" he growled, half at the horse and half at the world itself. Clara followed suit, sliding off her own mount to join him. "Maybe there's something wrong with the water," she suggested hesitantly. "Something we can't see." Ezekiel shook his head slowly, his gaze scanning the horizon. "No sign of foul play that I can detect." But little did we know, his voice trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished, yet heavy with unspoken meaning. Jonas, meanwhile, wandered along the edge of the riverbank, kicking up small clouds of dirt with each step. Suddenly, he froze, pointing downstream. "Look, there's something floating." All eyes turned toward where Jonas was gesturing. Indeed, there was a dark shape bobbing gently in the current, partially submerged and difficult to make out clearly in the dimming light. Silas squinted, trying to discern what it might be. A log? Debris from a storm? Or perhaps something far darker? Without hesitation, Silas grabbed a rope coiled at his saddle and waded into the shallows. The water rose quickly around his boots, cold and unervingly swift. Each step forward felt deliberate, almost reluctant, as though the river itself resisted his intrusion. When he reached the object, he paused, gripping the rope tightly in one hand, while reaching out with the other. It was indeed a log, thick and gnarled, its bark worn smooth by years of exposure to the elements. But something about it struck Silas as peculiar. As he pulled it closer, he noticed faint indentations along its surface, marks that looked suspiciously like fingers clinging desperately to life. And then he saw her. Buried beneath the swirling waters was a woman, her body pressed against the log as though holding on to it for dear life. Her hair floated around her like a halo, tangled and soaked, while her face bore the pale pallor of someone who had fought death and barely won. She wasn't moving, but Silas couldn't tell whether she was alive or already lost to the river's embrace. He called back to the others, his voice tight with urgency. "Help me get her ashore." Together, they managed to drag both the woman and the log onto dry land. Clara immediately knelt beside her, checking for signs of life. After a tense moment, she let out a shaky breath. "She's alive," she announced, relief flooding her tone. "But barely." Ezekiel removed his coat, spreading it over the unconscious woman to shield her from the chill of the evening air. Jonas fetched water from their canteens, splashing it gently onto her face in hopes of rousing her. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as they waited. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the woman stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing wide, frightened eyes that darted wildly around until they locked onto Silas's face. "Where am I?" she croaked, her voice raspy and weak. "You're safe now," Silas replied softly, though inside he seethed with questions. Who was she? How had she ended up in the river? And why had Thunder sensed her presence before any of them? The woman shivered, pulling Ezekiel's coat tighter around herself. "I thought I was done," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "I thought no one would find me." Clara handed her a sip of water, which she drank greedily before continuing. "My name is Eliza," she began, her voice trembling. "I've been running. For days, maybe weeks. I don't remember anymore. Bandits attacked my wagon train near Fort Laramie. They took everything, supplies, horses, people. Those who didn't flee fast enough." She stopped, swallowing hard, unable to finish the thought. Silas clenched his jaw, anger simmering beneath the surface. "And you ended up here, alone and fighting to survive?" Eliza nodded, fresh tears streaming down her cheeks. "I tried to keep going, but the river caught me off guard. I must have blacked out because the next thing I knew, I was clinging to that log, praying someone would pass by." The group fell silent, processing her harrowing tale. Yet amidst their sympathy, a deeper question lingered in the air. Why had Thunder refused to cross the river earlier? Had the horse somehow known Eliza was there, buried within the current, waiting to be found? Little did they know, however, that this was only the beginning of their journey together. For as dawn broke over the horizon the following morning, casting golden light upon the landscape, another figure emerged from the trees nearby, a stranger whose intentions remained as murky as the river itself. And so, with newfound purpose and lingering mystery, the travelers prepared once again to ride into the unknown, bound by fate and circumstance to uncover the truth hidden within the Wild West's untamed heart.